Okay, y'all. So I think that we're live now. I think that we're live now in the appropriate sense. So you're seeing the behind the scenes. Let me go straight to the action. I don't think you're going to be able to see me in this one though. Um, but I do want you guys to. Okay, so now let me delete the other one. Okay, I am so excited. I hope you guys can see. I'm gonna zoom in a bit so that you guys can see a little bit better on what is going to be going on here. So I'm so excited to do this live because I feel like it will become the basis of what I am teaching. You guys will be able to understand what it is that where I'm coming from, what it is that I am, putting in my content and things of that nature. So, and then, how to actually awaken, because I feel like there are a lot of different things going around, and I definitely feel like that there are multiple truths or multiple ways to awaken. So this is the way that I go about it and what I am sharing with um, everyone. So, or on my content or with my content. So I want to start off by saying I have some disclaimers. So we're going to go down into it. So some of the disclaimers I have is, first, the terms that we have when we are talking about life. So these are some of the most common terms: that the world is an illusion, life is a dream, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that the answers are within you. But what does that mean? Like, and we're going to be breaking it down in this video. So many times we're saying these things, but but the way we're actually going about living in this reality or this illusion that we call reality is not thinking about or having in mind the word is illusion or life is a dream. It's not that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. It's not we are living in a way where the answers are within you. So it's just, at this point, it's just words without any action behind it. So so in this live, we're going to talk about what does it actually mean to live like the world is an illusion and life is a dream. What does it mean to live like we are spiritual beings having a human experience? What does it mean to live like the answers are within you? So the information that I am sharing from you on this live came from the book The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard, the book The Great Liberation by Margot Krickar, and the near life experience that I had. So another disclaimer that I want to make is that I am in no way special or above any of you for being able to regurgitate this information. All of this information is available to you as well if you look within. And I received proof of this information from the book The Disappearance of the Universe and the Great Liberation. I received proof of this information from a near life experience that I had in 2015. And after that, I went on a quest to confirm what I had already known, which is that I saw what people call heaven, nirvana, and all the other different experiences or titles that people give this awestruck reality. I can't even explain it. There are no words that can explain it. So I had the near life experience first in 2015, and then I went on Google literally and was Googling for hours. I was just trying to understand. I knew what it was, but I just couldn't believe it. And because the near life experience I had came from a suicide attempt, I couldn't compute or understand why I was deserving of this experience. So I didn't really believe that it had actually happened. And then for whatever reason, something in me told me to buy The Disappearance of the Universe, and it literally told me about the near life experience that I had without knowing me. So, and it talked about it to a T. And that's how I came across the spiritual discipline that I follow called A Course in Miracles. And The book The Great Liberation came a little bit after. It was from a friend that I knew that read The Disappearance and follows the course, and she was like, you should really read this book, The Great Liberation. And The Great Liberation had the same breakdown that The Disappearance had, and she gave pictures that I'm gonna show you guys, so it can give a little bit. I'm a visual learner, so it can give a little bit more context as to what I'm talking about and what is actually going on. So yes. So, and then that even confirmed the truth for me even more, because there were two separate books. This woman is, I think she was Dutch, and she got her book translated into English. And then Gary, he's English or he's American, and they had the same outline of it, as well as confirming the same experience I had. So this was just three different things that came from three different, in a way, like expressions, and they all talked about the same thing. So, where were I? So, yeah. So I want to say that you do not need a near-life experience to awaken from the dream that we call life. You do not need a direct experience either. The near-life experience is basically a suicide attempt. So you don't need to do the whole suicide attempt thing, nor do you need a direct experience either. Some people may receive glimmers and glimpses of reality as they are doing their spiritual work, and some may not receive these glimmers or glimpses of reality, but that doesn't mean that they are less than or that they won't receive proof of progress in other ways. Meaning that me having this glimpse really of heaven, some people may experience it, some people may not. That doesn't mean that they aren't doing their spiritual work, but they will for sure receive proof of progress of their growth, or proof of progress in other ways. It can be like just knowing the peace of God. It can be, it's so many different things. I don't even want to get into that, because I don't even want to even get into that right now when this is the focus. I can get into that later, but it may confuse you. So some of the things some of the things initially may not logically make sense to you at first, but intuitively you will know that it is the truth, because there's a memory buried deep within your mind, underneath all the guilt and fear you have identified with for eons. So there is a memory buried deep within your mind that will be sparked to let you know that this is indeed truth. But that memory that is buried deep within your mind is underneath all the guilt and fear that you have identified with for eons. You also don't have to understand. Oh, and then in this part, that's why it may not feel like it. You may not feel like this memory is there. You may not feel like God is there, or love is possible, or love is there, because it's underneath all this gunk and tar of fear and guilt. You also don't have to understand this concept in order to awaken, because the awakening process is already happening for everyone right now. And it will inevitably happen for everyone. Some people will take longer than others, but it is already happening now and will happen, because deep down we all know that this isn't our true reality, nor do we want to be here. So what I meant with everyone is the awakening is happening for everyone already. Regardless, like some people are probably a little bit lower on the ladder rung of awakening. That doesn't mean it's not happening. People that are conspiracy theorists, or questioning the reality, or saying that they, like positive vibrations, or I don't want negativity, or, we are already realizing some of the results and the consequences of following the ego. Even though we may not know how to actually not follow the ego, or whatever the case is, or we're doing it in a way that is not the way to actually awaken. So we're doing other little things. That's part of the whole deception, which is why I'm sharing this now. So, but everyone is indeed already awakening. It's the process. It's happening for everybody. It's just that some people are moving slower than others. But most people, I want to say all people already know, like, this isn't it. This isn't, deep down, this isn't it. I don't care how much money you get. I don't care how many vacations you go on. deep down we know like something ain't right with this reality, which is why we start to question, why would God have people starving and be in poverty and things like that? All those questions come from a person who is awakening. So just wanted to let that know. And then it will inevitably happen for everyone. So no matter how slow or quickly you're going, everybody is going to awaken, because we know that this is not our reality, nor do we want to be here. So I am sharing this because I feel like for some it will help, even though you don't necessarily need this information of how the devolution happened. You don't need to know that, but it may help for some people. And so I will remind you that this understanding is not needed, so give yourself some grace if it doesn't click immediately. Most importantly, the seeds were planted. So I am also sharing this because it will help you understand my content and my message, which I mentioned at the beginning. And even if you do not understand it, even if you do understand it, so let's say we get through this, you're like, man, I get this, I understand this. Even if you do understand it, that is not enough, because intellectually understanding spirituality does not guarantee progress. Practice does. Practicing forgiveness guarantees progress. We know this because I'm pretty sure you can name at least one person that can understand things intellectually and spiritually, but yet they keep finding themselves in the same lessons, in the same part of the lesson, the same loop over and over again. They are still experiencing a lot of anger and a lot of fear and a lot of guilt. And that's because even though they intellectually understand it, but when it comes time to be the loving presence, they don't. And that's where the practice is at. And so they're not actually moving forward. So they're just kind of staying where they're at, or barely moving anywhere. So anyways, I digress. Continuing on. So also, some of the words I use will sound familiar to you, like God, Holy Spirit, forgiveness, ego, the devil, and so many other ones that I can't think of it right now. But even though the words itself are familiar, I'm not using them in the sense that you're probably familiar with. So, and I'll get into that as we get into it. That's just a disclaimer. Also, I will also refer to God as He, but that is really just for simplicity purposes and my preference. It really doesn't matter what word you use to define God, because God cannot be defined, and it's really not a he or a she, but more on the lines of an it. And by your perceptual definition of it doesn't change what it actually is. So if you want to start saying God is a she, that is definitely okay. If you want to go and say God is a it, that's definitely okay. If you want to go and say God is a he, that's definitely okay. It really doesn't matter, because God is going to be God no matter what title you put on it. All right. And then the last disclaimer is that the experience we seem to have, okay, this may be a bit uncomfortable, but the experience we seem to have with the five senses in the 3D reality can be considered as hell. But hell is not going to tell you that it is hell, nor is it going to have a big sign somewhere stating, this is hell, exit here. This is the deception. This is the trick of the ego. So to answer the question, why would God create a world where there is poverty and death and molestation and rape and all the other things, the horrible things that's going on here? Why would God create a world like this? Because He didn't. He did not create this world. He only created heaven. That is it. And we are having a dream of separation, illusion of separation, but we are still in heaven, in God. We're just asleep. We're having this dream of what it would be like to be separate from God, and that is hell, basically. And if you have any questions, y'all, feel free to drop it in the comments below. If you have any questions. Oh, Catherine put replay, please. And then Tati put some hearts. Okay, cool. I can see the questions. I mean, the comments. So if you have any questions, please ask so that I can dive more deep into it. That's why we're all here. And if you're in the replay, please put the questions down there too. So, what is the ego? The ego is but a dream of what you really are. A dream. Emphasis on a dream of what you really are. What you really are is still in heaven, untouched, unbothered, going along just fine. Well, in a way, you're kind of asleep. But in heaven, though, you're asleep. In heaven, you're in your bed, in heaven, dreaming of this reality of separation and illusion. Or that is the illusion. It is a symbol. So what is the ego? But a dream of what you really are. A symbol of impossibility. A choice for options that do not exist. A choice for options as in, or first I'll start, a symbol of impossibility. It's not possible for you to actually be separated from your source. It's not possible for you to be separated from God. But you are dreaming of what it would be like to be separate. But the reality of you being separate is not true. And it is a choice for options that do not exist. So options as in individuality, you, me, them over there. I am this, you are that. I am a yoga instructor, you are a contractor, you are a customer service representative. That is a plant, that is a cup, that is a TV. But the TV and the cup and that other person and that car and that dog or that animal is options, and these options are separate from me. They are not a part of me. It does not exist. That is not true. So, yes. What is the ego? It is but a dream of what you really are, a symbol of impossibility, a choice for options that do not exist. Okay. So now let's get into the good stuff. All right. So I jotted it down in this like Word doc or Google Doc. So it is heaven. So let's start off here. We're in heaven. And we're still in heaven. And so now it started with a thought of what it would be like. What if we weren't connected to God? What if we were separate? What if we weren't all one? What if we were separate? This is where all of this stuff originated from. And immediately at the same exact time, the correction for the tiny mad idea, this is called the tiny mad idea, the what if. The correction for the tiny mad idea happened at the same time. So you thought the idea, we thought the idea, what would it be like to be separate from God? Immediately at the same time, it was corrected. But we could not accept, or we did not accept the lack of acceptance for the correction. Yes. So we did not accept the correction. Therefore, we start the devolution process, or the seeming devolution process. So, tiny mad idea, what if? So we know that this has happened because we see it so much in our life. We play hypotheticals all the time. And this is the deception of the ego. This is how it tricks you, because the proof is really kind of right in your face, because we're doing it all the time. What if, for example, my car got broken into last Saturday. And so there were so many questions initially of like, how did they do this? When did they do this? Like, what if I would have put the club on my car? What if I would have parked on the other side of the street? What if I didn't even come to this event? All these what ifs. But what is going to happen within the illusion is going to happen. And what is not meant to happen in the illusion is not going to happen in this lifetime that you're experiencing. So we see this whole what if hypotheticals, certain things of like, we need to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because it's playing out the tiny mad idea. It's playing out what if. What if plan A doesn't work? I need a plan B. What if plan B doesn't work? I need a plan C. What if plan C don't work? I need a plan D, and so on and so forth. It just gets you into this rabbit hole, and then you end up feeling anxious. You end up feeling scared. You end up feeling guilty for what happened in the past that you wasn't able to do, so then you want to be able to change it for the future. All these things is wrapped in this tiny mad idea, and it plays out. But it started here in heaven. The correction for it happened. The correction for it happened immediately, but there was a lack of acceptance for the correction. All right. So because there was a lack of acceptance for the correction, we chose to entertain the tiny mad idea, which caused the first division of the mind, which is you're dissociated. So your awareness of your perfect oneness with God is now just a memory. So I want to scroll down here real quick, because whenever the mind divides, its new condition is reality to it, and its former condition is denied and forgotten. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to scroll back up. First division, dissociated from your true reality, or you're thinking, you're perceiving yourself as disassociated or dissociated from your reality, your true reality. So the awareness, just the awareness of your perfect oneness with God is now just a memory. That doesn't mean that your actual perfect oneness with God is now gone. It's just the awareness of your perfect oneness with God is now just the memory. So now you are, oh, and I want to show you this little clip real quick, this picture. So this picture is how Margot Crickard, this is from The Great Liberation, Margot Crickard, how she explains, or how the Course and Miracles, or my thought system, my belief system, and everything else, like even from my near-life experience, or from the near-life experience. While I was having the whole near-life experience, I had no awareness of the body of Ari. That doesn't mean that the body of Ari wasn't seemingly still hanging from the still doing the whole suicide attempt experience. So, but the experience I had of heaven was constant. It was happening at that same time. So this is eternity. This is like heaven. This line right here. The tiny mad idea happened right here, and then from the tiny mad idea, I'm trying to see. Okay, I don't know why this is going so slow. From the tiny mad idea was the time and space illusion. We're in this part right here. We're in the time, or we are seemingly thinking we're in this time and space illusion. But eternity has not changed. It is still the same. And it's just a bloop. Like, it was literally a tiny instant, a tiny mad idea. This is when the mad idea happened. This is when it was corrected at the same time. Yet, the sleep and the illusion that we are seemingly in is in here. That doesn't mean heaven has changed. All right, now let's go back. So so after the first division of the mind, you're now conscious of something. Consciousness is created, perception is created. So usually we like to, the way that we're using the word consciousness is like, oh, consciousness is of God or something. Consciousness is not of God. Consciousness is of the ego or the devil. Because in order to be conscious, you have to be conscious of something. Conscious requires duality. Consciousness requires two things. So, consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation seemingly occurred, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. Oh, and I also want to say, like, come with the open mind to this too, but I'll put that in the bio. Okay, perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. How do we know this? Because most times we're biased. The conflict arises from the concept of levels. This is biasness, basically. So when something happens to your friend, something happens to you, something happens to your family member, this is the concept of levels. this is the person I love the most, and you're not somebody who I really love or who I'm connected to. This is somebody I'm connected to. You're not connected to us. So, therefore, you disrespected me. You disrespected my aunt. You disrespected my grandma. You disrespected my mom. Oops. You know, all these conflicts. You disrespected my car. You disrespected my dog. You disrespected my house. All these things. So spirit has no levels because everything in spirit is seen as one. That is the non-duality aspect of it. Everything is all the same. The car, the desk, the bottle of water, the phone, the other person. All things in this seemingly this dream is actually still connected to us. Why? Because when you go, think about it like when you go to sleep at night and you have a night dream, that everything that happens in your night dream is connected to you. So how do we know this? Because you're asleep in your bed, you're having a dream. That isn't anybody else's dream. It's your dream. You are the thinker. You are the dreamer. Even though you don't remember that you are in your bed, at home, sleep, you're identified with the dream. And so it's all these little, I don't even know what to call it, but that the ego puts into here where it's kind of like you're playing in our face, basically. So, yes. So it's all these little symbols of the illusion that you're in. So, without even realizing that it's a symbol or that it's mocking you, basically. So it's the same thing. You're asleep in heaven in your bed. You're having a dream of separation. You're having a bad dream, kind of. And you don't realize that you're in your bed in heaven having the dream. Same as when you're asleep at night in your bed and you're dreaming of something, you don't realize that you're in your bed safely dreaming, even if you're experiencing a nightmare. You're now in the dream thinking that you can be hurt, even though you cannot be hurt. So that's the same thing. You're in heaven having a dream or a nightmare of separation, of being separate from God. It is not actually happening. You are still safe in the dream of heaven. In your bed in heaven. Okay. Perception always involves some misuse of the mind because it brings the mind into areas of uncertainty. That's self-explanatory. All right, so now we had heaven, we're in heaven. The tiny man idea occurred. The correction for the tiny man idea happened at the same time. There was a lack of acceptance for the correction, therefore it caused the first division of the mind, where the awareness of your perfect oneness with God is now just a memory. Now you're aware of something. You're now conscious of something. You have perception. And so now you're conscious of the Holy Spirit or the ego. Now, in the Holy Spirit, it's just really whole spirit. It means whole spirit. And it is the voice of God. So it's not God itself. It is the voice of God. Or ego. The voice of the devil. The devil doesn't really exist, but we can just say it's this voice. All of these things are in your mind, though. It's not outside of you. It is in your mind. So now you have the choice. Once again, this one, you can either had accepted the correction or not accepted the correction. So what we did was we did not accept the correction, blooped ourselves into the conscious perception. Now the Holy Spirit was created to help us, and it's either we choose the Holy Spirit or we choose the ego. We chose the ego once again because it's convincing. And so then we come into the next division of the mind, the second, which is where the awareness of the Holy Spirit is just a memory. So now remember down here, whenever the mind divides, its new condition is reality to it, and its former condition is denied and forgotten. Denied and forgotten. That doesn't mean it's not there. That doesn't mean it's lost. It's just denied and forgotten. It's still there. It's just not seen. It's like walled off in the mind. So, but it's still there. The Holy Spirit is still there. the correction, the heaven is still there. All of that stuff is still there. It's just walled off in the mind by this division. So now the ego has your attention. So now the ego is throwing you all these kind of insults on how you ruined heaven, you made God mad, you're now dead, God is gonna get you, but I have a safe place for you to go. I got an answer. So even though you're dead and God is gonna get you and you made him mad, and I got a place where you can go, where you can be happy and you can create what you want and you can be safe from the wrath of God. So now out of fear, we choose the ego once again because we're scared. We thought that we threw God away, that that God is mad at us, that we killed it, so to say, which is not true. Everything the ego is telling you is a lie. And all these things are talked about in these religions, but they don't go as deep as this one. Not saying that they won't get you there to awakening. I've never seen them talk about it like this. So that doesn't mean my way is the only way. I do not believe that. I'm just saying this is the way that I'm going. And if you want to walk this path with me too, this is the way that I will be able to share with you. So no disrespect to any other religion at all whatsoever. So out of fear, we chose the ego once again. And now we project a universe that is filled with entities and bodies. We project a universe, not the world. The universe includes all the galaxies, all the parallels, all of that stuff. It's not just the Earth. It's not just Pluto and Mars and the sun and the stars of the Milky Way galaxy that we are in. It does not exclude all the other galaxies, the universe, all this stuff that NASA is seeing from far, far, far away, outside of our galaxy, outside of the other galaxies, outside of the parallels, all the aliens, all of this stuff is within the illusion. That was a little bit of a mind fuck for me. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what? I thought, it was probably just, when I heard life is a dream, life is an illusion, or we're in an illusion or a hologram. I thought the hologram kind of only included the Milky Way galaxy. And to find out it was all the galaxies, all of space, all of that stuff, that was blew my mind. But it made so much sense. The human mind cannot perceive of heaven because it's so walled off. It's there, but it's so walled off. 2 divisions, 2 fat ass walls are blocking it. So really we think that God is outside of this universe or outside of this galaxy and things like that. No, that's still a part of the ego. So and the aliens and stuff, the Pleiadians, all of those are still within the illusion. So, and this is how I confirmed when I had read this in the disappearance. This part was in the disappearance. When I read when I read this part, it made so much sense to me because of the near life experience that I had. It made so much sense because the near life experience that I had no recollection of the world, all the universe, all the galaxies. It was not there. It was just heaven. That was it. And everything that heaven encompassed. I think I have another video on my near life experience, or I probably should make another one because when I did it, that's neither here nor there. Anyways, it was confirmed that this was true because it explained why when I had the near life experience, I knew everything. Knowledge was infinite. Knowledge was there immediately. And then when I came back to the body of Ari, I was so confused. I was like, where am I at? This place is scary. I was like, you can't see my face, but I was like, looking around, like, what the hell is this shit? Basically, like, where am I at? Where am I at? Like, I was terrified. I was looking at my fingers and stuff, and they were looking so ugly to me. Because when you see the beauty and the brightness and the lightness and the love, and you remember, when you remember that, this little poor imitation is blah, blah, and that's why it is hell. But because we don't remember the oneness or heaven or God, we think there is so much beauty here. In a way, I would say kind of, but not compared to the beauty of what you are created to be and where your real reality is. If you was to see those comparisons, you would most definitely see that this reality of life is scary as shit. It is not what's up. It's not what's up. Even the most beautiful of beautiful places, it does not compare or amount to the beauty of heaven, period. So now the third division. So now that he throws all these insults at you, I have an idea though. We can go somewhere where you can be happy. You can create what you want, manifestation, but we're not gonna get there. You can create what you want and be safe from the wrath of God. Now that comes into the third division of the mind, where your awareness that your mind projected. Oh, so out of fear, yes. So out of fear, we project a universe that is filled with entities and bodies. So now once we project that, we then identify with it and then forget. I didn't put that here, y'all. I'm kind of processing this out loud as well, and I try my best. So now that we project it, not only do we project the universe and project the entities and bodies in that universe, we then identify ourselves with those bodies and forget that we actually projected it from our mind. So now the third division is the awareness that your mind projected a world of sin, fear, and guilt is now a memory. And so now you have life. This is the identification. With the false self that believes it is a body in a world that was actually projected from your mind, from the part of your mind that chose to believe in sin, fear, and guilt. Okay, I'm doing this all at the same time. Okay, so yeah, and now you're here in life. So frequently asked questions. We're wrapping this up. Why would the Son of God, who is so perfect, think something so imperfectly? Like, why would it even, if we were here in God and we were happy, why would we even have an idea of what it would be like to be apart from God? So, I'm trying to figure out the best way because I didn't write no answers to this. So this is literally coming from my mind. I understand it though. So because the mind is so powerful, just work with me here. Just follow with me here. I'm gonna just speak a little candidly. The tiny mad idea, thought, what will we be separate? If we're asleep and having a dream of separation, what would be so bad about the tiny mad idea? What would it? When you birth a child and it goes to sleep and the child is dreaming a nightmare and you are looking at your child sleep in its bed, safe, even though it's kind of freaking out and twitching and stuff and it's in his nightmare, do you then freak out and be like, oh my God, my child is gonna die? No, you don't think that, because you know that your child is safe in its bed, even though it doesn't have that awareness of it because it is identified with the dream, the sleeping dream that it is in. It's the same thing. So, or I think people would ask, like, why would God, who is how could God create something that could do such a thing? Because God has the creation that God made, the Son of God, has an imagination. And that imagination is not going to harm it. Even if it imagines things that is not true, that doesn't mean it's going to harm it. So it's the power of the mind. And also the things that we see as bad isn't necessarily bad. The things that we think will harm us can't actually harm us. Yes, it can seem to harm us in the dream to the body that's also in the dream. But let's go back to the top of it. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. People say this all the time. But what does this actually mean? That means that we are spirits. And if we are having a human experience, that means it's not actually happening, and we're not really humans. So if we are spiritual beings in this seemingly human body, then even if the human body can be seemingly harmed, that doesn't mean the spirit is harmed. So going back down, how could God create something that could do such a thing? The spirit is so powerful, so vast. It has a grand imagination and so extremely powerful. So it cannot limit as far as it's not judging a thought, a tiny mad idea, as something that shouldn't happen. Because it can't happen because it didn't happen, because it's an illusion. Going back to, it didn't happen. We're here in eternity. The tiny mad idea happened. It is this thought of time and space, but it didn't actually. The results of the tiny mad idea is the dream, is the illusion. So if we really look at this question, how could God create such a thing? How could God create something that can think a thought that is not aware of the oneness of it? But even if they did think that thought, how would that thought harm them? That's like you creating a child and the child asks you, Mom, what would happen if you died? What would my life be like? Your child thinking, you creating a human being and it having the capability to think a thought that will not actually harm them, it's not a problem. So we're creating this problem because we're experiencing the illusion, and we're like, this shit is horrible. So, and it seems very real. So, that's the answer to that. And then why would God let this happen? It didn't happen. It did not happen. So that's like saying, Mom, why would you let me believe in that dream that I had last night? Well, I didn't make you believe in that dream that you had last night. And because I created you, me and your dad created you, and I birthed you, that doesn't mean that you can't think a thought that I wouldn't think. Nor does that mean that you won't identify with yourself in those sleeping dreams that you have. But that doesn't mean I create the sleeping dream that you have. That doesn't mean that I created the images in the sleeping dream that you have at night. So God didn't let this happen. God created something that had an imagination, that can think thoughts, and it thought a thought that could not harm itself. And why would the Son of God, who is in something so perfect, think something so imperfectly? Because why not? Especially if it's not something that can harm itself. All right. So, and then I talked about how did we get here, or what was the name of this live? I forgot. And why are we here? What was it? It was, what is life? So we talked about what is life and why are we here? So we're not actually here. So that's the short answer. We're not actually here. We're just having a dream of separation. That is the illusion. I could talk about on the next live how to awaken, like the true effectiveness of awakening, but I wanted to talk about this part first. So yeah, I hope that answered some of your most pressing questions. If you are watching the replay, type the questions in the answer below, in the comment section below, and then I'll answer them. So yeah, that's it, y'all. That's it, y'all. Okay. I think that's it. So I'll see you guys next time. And if you want to learn more about or receive some coaching services, get assistance in effectively awakening from the illusion in a soft and gentle way, in a quicker way, then click the link in the comment section and we can talk about like where you are along your spiritual journey and why you're ready, and you know, your motivation behind doing this, and talk about what it actually looks like. Okay, so I'll see you guys next Monday, God willing. If something don't happen to like my car or something, you know, and we'll go from there. Peace, y'all. I love y'all.